Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now it's time to introduce our main speaker for tonight, Victoria.
My name is Victoria and I'm an alcoholic. And you know I'm from New York. I brought my pocketbook up here. I want to thank, this is going to take me a second. I'm sober by the grace of God and the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I always like to say that because I'm not a linear thinker, and in case for some reason I scramble about and confuse you, I want you to know now that I'm sober by the grace of God and the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, nothing more and nothing less. I tried all kinds of fancy shit. This needs like a little thing right here. I didn't hear it. What was the joke? I still can't hear. Oh, God damn, it's Friday night in fucking California. It's my kind of crowd. Patty knows I like to curse. I don't think cursing is offensive. I didn't get to vote the day that they said it was. And so, you know, I think motherfucker it belongs in as many sonnets as anything else. I want to thank Patty for asking me to come out and participate in my own recovery. One of the things that's really powerful about people like Patty is, do you see how many people who she gave a fucking cake to? I mean, like, talk about being involved in other people's lives. So, you know, when I was new, you know, they used to say stuff like, if someone says from the podium, or if like you walk up to someone and you say, hey, I'm trying to get sober and I need some help, how'd you stay sober? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know. Run the other way. If anyone ever says, I don't know how I did it. Not like I worked the steps and I don't know how they work. That's totally different from like, I don't know how I stayed here, I just do. You know, like if someone says they don't have any commitments, run. And Patty, when you look at people like Patty, it's so funny, you know, all the meetings in wherever you go, any city you go to, there are people holding it down, and then it's like not a mystery. It's really not a mystery how this works. And I really I'm deliriously tired, and I never know what time zone I'm on for this entire year, and I went out of my way to come here because of Patty and the way that she asked me and what she went through to make her recovery important. And so I'm delighted to be here. And David, I don't know where you went. Hi. Thank you so much. It's really sweet to share this with you. And you know, it's funny because there are all these funny things about crisscrosses and paths, and you know, and whatever, but there are crisscrosses and paths, and so it means a lot to see you in a way that's so wide open and present and giving, and it's just fucking cool when the light comes on, man. There's nothing like it. I don't care what anyone says. Like all the shit I've done, all the things I've gotten into, it's like, it's really special. And you know, the Al-Anon, when I was a kid, I learned the Serenity Prayer. I didn't know what the hell it was, but it was in our house. And it turns out my mother went to Al-Anon. And so when I was really little, I was familiar with the Serenity Prayer, and I memorized it just because I'd see it and read it on the wall all the time. My mother was such a great Al-Anon. You know, she reads that book till this day. My father's died, but she still reads that book every day. She never had a sponsor or worked the steps, but she read that book every day. Needless to say, she had some crazy path. All right, so, oh my God. 19 years, I'm 19 years sober, and I did everything wrong. I did everything I wasn't supposed to do. I did everything that my heart told me to, and I did everything that my egos told me to, and I did everything that my spirit told me to, and I did everything my legs told me to, and I did everything my mouth told me to. I just like did whatever I wanted. And then someday, you know, out of the middle of nowhere, I just like, I got so tired, and I just felt, what if this lot, like what if this group knows something I don't know? And so like one by one I would meet these people who it was so clear that they knew something I did not know. And so when I was out, you know, like, you know, there were a crew of us who used to smoke coke in the basement of a house, and I was 14, and it was so obvious that 3 of them did not know how to cook and 1 of them did. And so it was the same thing. I was always like, oh, you know something about this. It's like, you know how to optimize the ingredients, you know how to optimize the high. And so like I keyed into him, and I just studied him, and I marked him, and I asked questions, and blah, blah, blah. And I followed him around, and you know, I learned all of his tricks. And so that's the same way I am about Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know, I really have a big thing about, like, when people come to me, everybody knows, like, I'm so not the person to call if you're having a problem with a boy. It's just like, I don't know what to do with that. But, like, if you buried your mother on your birthday, I'm the perfect person to call. Like, I'm the one. If you're going to court at 4 a.m., I'm a good person to call. You know, if you have to bury your kid, I'm a pretty good person to call. I stay out of the way. I don't know how. You know, again, like I do everything wrong. I make a mess of everything. But somehow in Alcoholics Anonymous with 19 years sober, it turns out that like there are some things that I've observed, and but I'm not the one to call if you want to cry about your boyfriend. I'm good for hanging up the phone on that. And that's because my sponsor hung up the phone on me. And I would call her like the world was ending. And he won't, and he didn't, and he ain't, and he won't, and he didn't. And it was just like, oh my God. And when I think of myself now, which is why we realize like why she just sort of had no patience, because she had years of this shit. Like I was unique. You know, I was like the 100th phone call that day with the same fucking song, you know? Like, I mean, when I hear newcomers, I'm like, oh baby, come here. Like it's so unique, you know, the circumstance that they're in, and you just, I could sing it with them. And he didn't go back, and you did this, and you did that, and you drove by his house at 2 in the morning because you happen to be on that block. You know, like, are you fucking kidding me? And so, I mean, I have a trick for a trade. You know, I just fucking, man, oh, God forbid I want something and I'm not supposed to have it. But my sponsor really, she raised me by, you know, I'd call and I'd be bitching and moaning and crying about some shit, and she would say, when's the last time you've been to a meeting? I was like, what does a meeting have to do with the fucking price of tea in China? Like, I'm dying here. And she was, when's the last time you go to a meeting? And I keep bitching, and she'd say, Victoria, when's the last time you went to a meeting? And I'd be like, Monday, and this is Friday. And she'd say, you need to get your ass to a meeting. You call me right when you walk out of the meeting and hang up on me. And the reason I share this is not because it was mean, like, oh my God, as if, like, I had dope dealers who did 20 million things worse than that. Like, oh my God, she hung up the phone, is so horrible. And AA, God forbid, somebody hurts our feelings, you know. But I was the person that's the way I responded to shit. Because you know what I did is I was just like her, and she knew it. I was like, yeah, you want to fucking see me go to a meeting? I'll go to a fucking meeting. And, you know, like, rip open the little book. We used the book back then. It wasn't the internet. And then, you know, rip open the book, and the only one was, like, in Baldwin Hills, wherever the fuck, you know, and I'm driving down there, and I'm ready to complain about my big old fucking problem and my big old broken heart. And, you know, there are people with, like, duct tape on their feet for shoes. And it just gets clear really quickly. And then somebody says something, and this one's like 2 jobs and 3 kids, single parent, trying to feed their fucking kids, and like, oh, really? And perspective. And then it's all alcoholics. And it's just Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's a few simple suggestions. And then I don't even remember his name, you know? And then the meeting's over, and the only reason I want to call my sponsor is to say thank you. And that's how I was raised. I was raised by Cubby, who said to me some really mean, heavy shit. Like, he would just hit hard. Like, anybody was raised by Cubby in here? Like, he used to hit hard, and I'd be like, you know, you could go a little easy. Like, you don't have to be so rough, you know, because they were really like, shut up. You know, they would just say, and so, you know, but I was like, you know, you don't really have to be so rough. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Haven't I proved I'm going to keep coming back? But I just like, ow. And he would say, I respect you more than that. Like, I respect you more than to baby you. until I grow you up as a weak person. And I didn't get that for years, and now I do. And, not a day goes by that I don't think about those old cats that raised me. So when I was new, they said all these things, like the person who got up, everyone who got up, I just want to, like, happy birthday to all the birthday people, welcome if you're new. And all the birthday people said something. The 17-year-old, like, I would fucking give anything to have had 1 year at 17, like, how beautiful and right on. And then the cat that his parents, that was pretty cool. And I would love for my little crazy ass, batshit mom and my sluzzler father to give me a cake in a meeting, and it's not going to happen, but it's really beautiful and it's nice to witness. And so when I came in, they told me a few simple things, right? Like, I'm going to just give you this and then we can goof around. But they told me that if I came into a meeting and there was only one seat up front, that seat was for me, and if I came with a friend, that I'd meet them afterwards. They told me that if I was talking to someone outside during a meeting, I was helping to kill them. They told me that I had to have a commitment at every primary meeting I went to. They told me to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. They told me to stick out my hand when AA walks up to me. So whether I knew what I was doing or liked what I was doing or agreed, if someone asked me to do something, I say yes and I flip out later. That's exactly how they said it. Just say yes and flip out later. Like, when I came in, I would go, this, I don't know if people do this shit anymore, but it was all about tricks and shit, because I don't know, maybe, I don't know what it was. Like, we were just like, we came in with our heels in the ground, and so, they would be like, oh, can you come with me to this meeting? We got to pick someone up. And no, they'd say, we got to pick someone up. Can you come? And I go, and they're like, oh, we're going to stop at a meeting. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're going to sit up here. And it was like, oh, and then like, oh, we're going to actually speak for 5 minutes each. Can you say something? So they didn't say, do you want to come to a panel? They would just like do all these fucking little moves, and then you're just there and you're like, what? And there was no time to flip out and get self-centered. And the old timers would say, and Cubby and Cliff was like, speaking is the least important commitment in Alcoholics Anonymous. So who gives a fuck? Like, who cares what you think about yourself? For real. And it's like a holiday. If anything, may I be a holiday from your brain? Like, may I just, like, if you hear every other word, like, how nice that you're not self-obsessed, for an hour, whatever the hell the time is that I'm up here. But, they really were very severe about, like, if I went to someone's house in the middle of the night because they called and they were in a dangerous situation and they were afraid they were going to use, and I picked them up and drove them to a meeting or let them sleep on my couch. Like, that was really serious. That was far more important than speaking at a meeting. And I believe them. And in my experience of doing those things, it's like, you know what, and I was telling Patty when I came up, it's like, there are a couple of circumstances in AA that really scared me. Like, I was terrified to fuck it up. Like, some people have called me on, I was the phone call when people were about to die. They're about to do something in that moment. And that scares the shit out of me. It scares me because I'm afraid that I may be disconnected in that moment and not have the egolessness to just listen and to just love them and to just be present, to not try to fix them, not try to rescue them and not try to save them, to just be present, awake, and available for whatever they decide. So, I have this crazy ass family, and it's so like, it's so not unique at all. But I started smoking cigarettes, a pack a day, when I was 9 years old, and I was drinking same like at the parties with my parents. I had Irish cops and Black Panthers in my family, and they'd have all these great, it was like dashikis and cops and guns and batons and bullshit, Irish New York cops, and so whole other breed. And they'd have these crazy get-togethers and whatever, and they always turned into like a weekend. One started on Tuesday and ended on Sunday. And, there was all kinds of shit, and we were always unguided, we were unparented, and if anything, the kids were parenting the parents, But, so I figured out shit early on, and the cigarettes in New York, we used to go to the deli and you'd sign off and you get whatever. You get like some ham and some bread and whatever, rice and a carton and some 40s or whatever the fuck for your parents, and sign it off. And I learned how to open the back of the carton of cigarettes, Winston soft packs, and I'd open the back, I'd put steam on it, open them, take the pack out, close it back up, and give it to my parents. They were too fucking out of it to ever notice, and that's how I got, hooked on that. And then, it just went, and then by the time I was 11 or something, I was, smoking weed every day, and then smoking coke, and then dealing coke, and dealing, whatever, and it just kept going. And so, I needed to come to Alcoholics Anonymous far earlier than I got here. And I'm not a person who's alive because of wisdom. I'm actually really fucking stupid and passive suicide about a lot of shit. I don't believe I'm lucky, and I don't think Alcoholics Anonymous has anything to do with luck. I'm sober for 19 years because I work my ass off. I've done the steps 1 through 12, back to back, 1 through 12 for the first 15 years. And not because, it was wise, but I always felt like I was gonna die. I always felt crazy. I mean, I am crazy. I'm batshit fucking crazy, and I like it. I don't have any problems with it. Some other people do, whatever. So when I came in, I ended up coming in because I got a DUI. I was trying to run from the cops. I smashed into this thing, blah, 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 went to jail. They tried to, when they were arresting me, they were trying to arrest me, and I kept walking and talking and functioning, and they knew I was drunk and I was lit. But I learned how to be a stand-up drunk at a very young age because my father was a fall-down drunk, and it pissed me off, and I hated it. So it was like, my biggest dream was like, I'm never going to be that. And so, not an alcoholic, just not going to fall down. I'm going to figure out how to keep it upright. And so, I was doing basically ballet and yoga, and with the cop, yeah, what? So, as he's trying to give me the thing, and I was fucking with him. He was so mad, and he was like, I know you're drunk. I was like, I know I'm drunk too, but you can't prove it, And but it was so taunting, and it was such a game. And I mean, it was so everything was a game. When I would go into these prisons when I was 14, 15, and we go with local boys in the upstate prison in New York. We put dope bags in our mouth, and I was talking about this the other day, and, I have a pretty big mouth, so I jam them in there, and, it was just a joke. It was I don't mean it was a joke, it was fucking money, and I did it for the money, but it was, when we were going and driving, and it was we're laughing, walking through the fucking prison, through the thing, laughing, it was a joke. It was all so non-awake. I had no awareness of consequences. I could give a shit about consequences. I kind of hoped that someone would fucking do me in before I did myself in, because I knew it was inevitable. I knew what was coming down. I was going to go batshit like my mother, or I was going to end up on the fucking floor useless like my father. And so I tried to do myself in before it came to get me, because I thought it was a ghost in the room just lingering around. At any moment, it was just going to pop up. So I was like, fuck you, I'll do myself in before you. It's the same way I feel about people in love. It's I'll get myself before you get me. You don't got to come get me. You don't have to judge me. Whatever is going to go down tonight, right now, for this room, is there's no harm you're going to do to me. There's nothing you can do to me that I don't do to myself on a daily basis. I wake up in the fucking morning before my eyelids open, and the devil's there just going 100 miles an hour, at least 15 voices at once screaming. It's chill the fuck out. And what I have to do in order to keep those voices quiet is, before I open my eyes, before my eyelashes separate, I have to do the 3rd step prayer and the 7th step prayer. I have to say the serenity prayer. I have to say the first 3 steps in order, every single day for 19 years, and it's the only thing that works. And then before I go to use the phone or go talk to anyone or get a cup of tea, I have to sit my ass down and sit still. And the meditation thing, I like the word that you coined, David, but I remember early on trying to figure out the meditation thing, and it was what's the point? It was so much torture. I just thought, why do I have to sit still? And it reminded me of being when I was in trouble in school, and they always put me in the back, my hands up. Does anyone else have to do that? It's in class, because I was always in trouble. And I thought meditation was some form of punishment, and then I realized that, really, it's just trying to clear the traffic jam. Is all. Nothing has to happen. I don't have to elevate. I don't have to see, Buddhas and mystics. It's just it's just quieting of the mind. It's shutting the fucking noise off. When the cop was arresting me, blah, 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 I thought it was a joke. And then finally some weird thing happened. The weirdest thing that's ever happened in my whole life. Weirder than the time that dope dealer and I were running from the cops, and he threw this fucking key of coke, and it slid right under a car. It went behind the front right wheel, and the cops came with a fucking dope dog. And they didn't catch us. They didn't get the fucking dope. It's one of the weirdest things till this day to me. It's I remember just watching it slide and like an opera, and the dope dogs on us, and it was just they're gonna get it any minute, and the fucking cops get back in the car, and the dogs, and they go, and it's how did that happen? Well, weirder than that and all the other shit was this cop said to me, "How much have you had to drink?" And for the first time in many, many, many years, I did not lie. And I told him. And I remember looking at him with this look that I had had many, many, many times in my life, but maybe I was picking like the people who had the same look, so we weren't noticing it with each other. But I looked at him with this pleading, begging silence. "Please help me. I cannot help myself." And he arrested me. I went in. There was a whole mess around that, including me peeing on the floor and having to clean it up and cursing the cops out and this and that and the other and being held for a long time and the amount of time that I got with the DUI. And, I had to clean all of Hollywood Boulevard. I had to paint it all the time. And which was funny because I was a graffiti kid and I wrote on everything that didn't move. None of the shit that I did, like it's all caught up with me in one form or another that I've had to sort of so it's very difficult to do 19 years. And what I would like to tell you is that through my entire time of recovery, there have been these circumstances that I could have drank, and I wanted to drink. And in truth, I should have drank. Like, it was the perfect moment. And instead, this thing took over, and it was like, what I want to give to you if you're brand new is that I am no further from a drink than you are. There's no difference between you and I. I could walk out of this meeting and within 45 minutes flat, have a drink down my throat. The only thing that happens with 19 years is that the tools take over the chaos in my mind and my heart and whatever it is I'm feeling that I think I can't bear. So there are enough experiences pile up, and I realize that I'm able, through the 12 steps, to survive anything. And that's not like I don't know what's coming up ahead, but so far that's what's happened. I have not had like some cute little soft recovery. And in the early days, I used to go to the Architects of Adversity because I needed people throwing chairs, because that's how I felt. Whenever I went to a meeting and I heard people talking about their picket fence and their great life and their 2.2 kids or whatever the fuck, I don't even know what that means when people say 1.2 kids. And I don't want to know. But like, whatever, all that stuff, I was always spinning out. I always felt like I was 2 seconds from death. I was always 2 seconds from harming myself or harming another person. I was always 2 seconds from a drink or a drug. So when people got up and it was all rainbows and unicorns, I wanted to kill them. I just thought, like, say something real. And that was real for them. But like, I needed to hear what happens when you have 19 years of recovery and you get a phone call and your mother is in the fucking psych ward in Brooklyn because this is taped, so I gotta be anonymous, but so someone called and put my mother in a hospital, and we had to do a proper jailbreak on my fucking mother out of the psych ward. And this was on Mother's Day of this year. So, 2011. And so, with 19 years, whatever, it's not anything I want to do. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to fucking participate in it. I don't want to walk in and look at my mother. And when I walked in and sat down, my mother had been in there for 3 days. Because no one knew. So the cops came, they jammed her door down, dragged her out kicking and screaming. She's 72 years old. And someone in our family thought that she should be in the psych ward. And so they called the police when we were all out of town and blah, blah, blah. And fast forward, and we only had X amount of time to get her out of the psych ward, or they were going to keep her permanently and she wasn't going to be able to leave. Now, my mother had been so shell-shocked at that point, When I walked in, she wouldn't look at me because she didn't know which one of us had called. And it was so interesting to not try to make her love me and understand I didn't do it and that I was innocent. The most important thing when I stood across from her was, how can I help you? And what do you need? And that's what 19 years have given me. If I had one day, I would have been like, I didn't do it, and it would have been all about me while my mother's sitting in the fucking thing. My mother's sitting while we're sitting there, right? And I didn't know what to do because I don't know. But what I do know is how to sit with people. So I just sat there. And she didn't talk and I didn't talk. And I just stayed there. And I'm good at that. Like, that's why, I can sit there if you want to sit in silence for 2 days straight. I'm fucking good with it. Like, if you just need to not be alone and you don't want to talk and you don't want to hear shit, I'm good with that, because that's what I needed. And so, and I still need it now. So I sat with my mother, and as we're sitting there was this woman walking around. She kept putting the Bible on everybody. And so she'd walk over and put the Bible on people's forehead and start praying on them, whatever. And then she goes around, there's this woman next to us. This is on the open floor with the curtains, the thing, only a curtain separates you from another person. She comes over. And my mother was just like, my mother was just nice, so she was out. And then she goes next to us, and there's this badass fucking woman. She's like, you put that Bible on my what? And the only reason is because this is totally what I would have done. She said, you put that Bible on my head one more time, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Now, the weird thing is, she made sense. It wasn't crazy at fucking all. Like, we don't know what she went through and how she got there. She clearly had been through some shit, and somebody put in the fucking psych ward against her will, and then she has somebody praying on her forehead that may or may not be her religion. And I thought, she makes fucking sense. Like, this is totally logical, and you need to stop putting that Bible on people's head just for sanitary reasons. And so she's going around the room fucking doing it, making the circle. She's coming back, and by now the adrenaline's going, because I love fucking drama. I live for it. I spent like 8 years of my early recovery cooking up drama when there wasn't none. I fucking pick dudes like I'm in love with Richard Burton. If Richard Burton's in this room right now, I want to take you home. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, I fucking find Richard Burton in broad daylight in a bookstore, and then sure enough, by night comes and he's throwing back rice wine vinegar in his fucking house because there's nothing else to drink. Like, that's how much I love drama. And this woman's coming around, so my heart's racing. I'm like, ooh, what's gonna happen? And she goes, sure enough, she walks by. She puts that fucking Bible on the lady's head next to us. I saw the woman count, which was another thing I identified with, because they taught me in AA, before you move your hands or your mouth, count. This is my whole recovery, was my hands under my feet. The first fucking 8 years. My hands under my ass, my tongue bit, but I would bleed sometime how hard I had to bite my tongue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count to 10, right? Sure enough, so that woman, I watch her count, and she did so great. And then the lady went around, and there was this one person who this woman put the Bible on this other person, and they started crying like they wanted to say stop, but they didn't have it. So this fucking woman, who counted and got like through the moment on her own, jumped up, badder than like any stunt person I'd ever seen in any film, jumped across the tabletops of the fucking room, like on these blue chairs, like that Crouching Tiger dragon shit, across the fucking room, and did the sweetest, most beautiful, like the fucking most elegant around the neck choke. She didn't get any chin. I mean, her thumb did not connect with the chin. Her pinky didn't hit the collarbone. She fucking went right in. And she squeezed that woman for dear life. It took 12 people to get her off of them. And there's me in the chair like, ah! Like, I identified. I completely identified. And I would leave, I fucking left her all messed up, and that's what happens to me. So I gotta stay at home for half of my life. I gotta hide from people because, like, I see people do shit, and I'm like, right the fuck on. And it's like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're not supposed to throw a chair across the room because you're having a feeling. Victoria's like, who says? Who says I feel better now? Does anyone else feel bad? Like, I'm not supposed to walk up to people and just curse them out because they say hello the wrong way. Like, really? Because I feel better. I feel better saying, move out of my fucking way. I don't want your love. I don't want your love. I don't want your kindness. I don't want your fucking AA. I don't want your tools. I don't want your solutions. I'm trying to die. I'm trying to do everything I can to get out of this fucking madness. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with opposable thumbs. I didn't get the book. I go to the grocery store. I don't know how to go to the grocery store. I go between 1 and 3 when they're stocking shit because it's quiet. I can't go with all the people and the sounds and all this shit. I don't go anywhere in traffic hour if I can. I can't bear it. I just don't want to curse people out. I want to ram my car. I chased these kids down the road once in sobriety. They were fucking with me and I chased them. I was like, right? Like, my sister and I, we joke all the time. It's like, don't wake her up. Don't wake her up. She's been asleep 19 years. Don't fucking wake her up. I want to just sort of, if you're new, I want to tell you that, the only reason I stayed sober was because I did everything that they told me to do. I didn't mess with it. You know, like I cooked the best fucking Coke in the world because I didn't mess with the recipe. I did exactly how that cat did, and it was good. You know, I profited as a dope dealer because I knew how to fucking do it. I did it like the recipe. So we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's like, I don't know if that person can sponsor me because they such and such. And it's like, really? You're the ethical police now? Like all the shit you did out in the world, but this person doesn't suit your life? You know? It was clear. They said to me, like, don't pick anyone because of what they own. Pick someone who sponsor you because they can take you through the steps. That's all a sponsor is for. I have a sponsor, she has a sponsor, I have sponsees, and they have sponsees. They told me when I was brand new that I didn't do a fifth step until I heard a fifth step. And I was the perfect person who that messed with me. I was like all proud, like I did my fifth step. And they're like, really? I don't think so. Wait till you hear one. I was like, shit, when do I get to hear one? Like, well, keep working the 12 steps. It was like, oh. I work step 1 through 3 every morning. I work 10 through 12 every day. And I do 4 through 9 where needed. I'm a person who has to come to AA at least 5 times a week. Clearly, right? I need to see that this thing works. When I was 3 years sober and I called Cubby and told him that I was going to go fucking crazy, that I needed to be locked into a psych ward because that was my greatest fear because my mother was locked in a psych ward when I was 9 years old and they took her for a year and she never came back. And so it was coming to get me. So I might as well just like, let's cut that out and I'm going to go check myself in, right? Because it's coming to get me. It's coming in the dark and I want to meet it in the daytime. And he said, there were 2 things. My sponsor said, if you need to go into a psych ward, what do you want? And I said, I want to stay sober. And she said, well, then you go ahead. And we will have a meeting in that psych ward every day for you. And I'll bring my sober friends, you bring your sober friends, and we will stay with you. And we'll sit with you, and we'll work the steps, and we'll keep you sober. And immediately I didn't need to go. Cubby told me that in my 3rd year, everything there was to get in Alcoholics Anonymous I had gotten. There was nothing else to get. Looked me straight in the eye and said, if you have 3 years sober, there is nothing left to get. You come to Alcoholics Anonymous and you fill that seat with the intention to give. Nothing more, nothing less. And watch your sobriety blossom. Watch your life blossom, watch your insides blossom. Watch your curiosity about other people just magically grow. Watch how long you laugh at the joke. Watch how quickly you're moved by the smallest gesture. It takes so little for me to be deeply moved by humanity and for a person who couldn't fucking stand people. It's a big deal that I'm curious about you. I wish you well. I hope that you have hit a bottom so desperate that you're willing to reach up to the hands of Alcoholics Anonymous and say, please help. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm alone. And I'm fucking tired. And if I have to do that in an hour, if it's me that calls you, please don't judge me. And I won't judge you. Thank you for asking me to come out.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.